Hey, this is Joey. Welcome to the exchange. What is going on with Meta? Why is it dropping? Where is it going? What's their long-term business outlook? I want to dive into that real fast. So, we all saw the news. Meta was down 26% over this week. Just a massive, massive drop. I think it lost $200 billion of market value. Just huge numbers going forward. But we have to look at kind of where their minds at, where they're going, how bad is it? Where does Zuckerberg want to take the company going forward? And they have some headwinds, but also have tailwinds though too. And I'm gonna try to be something pretty positive, but I think the bad news has already been out there. People already know. The Facebook haters have already come out, which is pretty funny. And again, for caveat, I own no Meta stock at all, besides in some 401k ETFs, etc. So, and this is I pull up right here. You can see this is a CFO outlook commentary. This is from their last press release. I think it was on February 2nd. So the number one thing we have here is basically the iOS changes. So basically, when the iOS devices, you get those notifications that says "ask app not to track" or "allow app to track," etc. Basically, people can click a no on that, and what happens is they can't cross-track across various platforms. They can't track your usage of various things, see how you interact. Which that data is very, very, very valuable to advertisers. So it's one of those things. That's why I saw the big pop at Google, and it's why you saw kind of the changing environment right now. So Apple, it really did cost Meta across the board, I think roughly $10 billion of lost potential ad revenue, which these are just massive numbers for massive companies. So which is pretty crazy. So you look at the CFO's comments. So he's saying first things first. The Apple iOS changes were not in effect, and basically they're going to anticipate they're going to lap the period. So basically the base effects are going to lap pretty soon. So like the year-over-year change won't be as ugly. Obviously the growth rate we'll see, but the year-over-year changes, once they lap it, it won't be as bad potentially. Which really is just it's statistics. It's not anything changed their business fundamentally. He's saying, hey, we had strong demand this prior year. They're hearing macroeconomic challenges like cost inflation, supply chain pressures are changing there too. So the issue you're having there is, hey, if we don't have the inventory on the shelves as suppliers, why are we going to advertise for stuff that doesn't exist? We're basically not fulfill consumer demand, etc. Basically saying, hey, that's gonna change. Hopefully inflation comes down this summer though too. So hopefully advertising revenue should pick up a little bit potentially as supply chain gets more stabilized and we have less inflation going into the summer time frame. And then obviously the last thing is Forex changes, which I'm not diving into that. That is what it is, and that's across the board for all companies going forward. But I'm gonna look at here. This is what really broke the markets back. They saw that this is daily active users DAOs. You saw a steady increase here, and then you saw, hey, this is in billions, or correction, millions. So this is billions of people. This is 1.9 billion people. Went from 1.930 to 1.929, which again, it's basically flat year-over-year growth, or it's basically flat more or less. But people saw that, and it's like, hey, this is the top of the market. This is a decline. And the big fear is, hey, there's these competitive platforms out there, and what's going to happen is you're going to have issues where all of a sudden, hey, new up-and-comers like TikTok are taking that market share away, and this might be like a long decline for Meta as a whole and for Facebook. And Facebook, they've had some bad PR issues, some overall issues going across the board with Congress. Privacy legislation is going to come. I think, I don't know if in this year, but maybe in the future. It's going to come. It's going to happen. I think this is for all social media platforms out there. Privacy is going to be a massive issue for the 2020s, this entire decade going forward. But yeah, overall, it wasn't actually that bad for Meta. I think people saw the daily active user numbers and they were panicking a little bit there too. But we'll see. But obviously, you look at ARPU's, average revenues per user, it was pretty healthy in Q4. They had a good number overall. Looking at 1157 right there. This is obviously the Q4 retail, holiday sales, Black Friday, etc. rolling in that. So obviously, you're gonna have higher revenue potentially there, but it wasn't bad worldwide. Look at the U.S. and Canada, $60 per user. They've monetized pretty well too. So the big issue we have here is looking forward is, hey, how do we actually, for Meta, how do we actually cross monetize across all of our family platforms, whether it's, the Messenger app, WhatsApp, whatever it is, and how do we actually increase the ARPU going forward? Because the problem is with Meta overall is they've won. The last 10 years, they've been winning. So the question is, how do you grow? How do you grow your actual user base? Actually, it's monetizable basically. So how do you grow them out there, and how do you grow forward? And for Meta, the answer is, roughly, they really can't. They've almost won the entire market that they can. So, like, for social media users, they are the platform. Their family of apps are the platform going forward. And the question is, how do you grow the ARPU from there? And the question for the U.S. market, you see, it's pretty well saturated. We have solid ARPU. It will increase as inflation and economic cycles increase too. But worldwide, you're going to start seeing that. This is Russell World number right here. Even adding a few dollars here is going to make a big difference for their bottom line. But what Zuckerberg does know, and this is the big question he's facing, is, hey, as we're declining, what's going to happen? And he really sees TikTok and the apps are going to follow TikTok, because I mean there's going to be other apps out there going to follow 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And the question is, what's going to happen to Facebook? Is Facebook the dying brand? Is it like the dying brand we're going to see going forward on that 40-year decline until eventually he's acquired or declares bankruptcy? And that's what he fears, and that's why he's looking at, hey, we have to change now. We have to change our brand, change our messaging, change what we're trying to go forward to. And he's really trying to get away from social media platforms. That's why he's so heavy on the metaverse. I mean, he really sees the metaverse as the way out, the way to control their own future. Because right now, Apple really just destroyed them with their privacy changes. And what he sees right now is the idea of, hey, this Web 1.0 of having desktops, Web 2.0 of having your phones or whatever else it might be. Web 3.0 is going to be like digitalization of people's, places, things, the metaverse as a whole. And I mean, they're invested $10 million in a virtual reality labs. I mean, they're trying to work on haptic feedback too. I mean, he's going all in because I think he knows deep down that TikTok or the ones after TikTok, they're going to be an existential threat. And the question is, 10 years from now, will Facebook even exist? And that's what he's facing right now. And the answer, honestly, might be no. And people don't realize that just quite yet. So he's betting the farm, in which what's so interesting though too is when disruption happens, usually it's very, very slow. It's a slow process, and all of a sudden you look around and it's like your AOL or MySpace, it's gone. And it's like, hey, they've been disrupted. They can't get back. They don't have the cash in hand to actually make those those big changes. But they're still, I mean, they're still very, very profitable. So he's actually he's betting the farm early and being like, hey, we have to change now, and if we don't change now, we're gonna be dead in 10 years. The question is, and here's what the big fear I have, and this is what CNBC was bashing him on, like, hey, the metaverse is for the virtual reality labs spending too much money. It's just burning cash. It's burning employees. They're trying to grow too fast. I mean, what he's doing right now is planting the seeds for 2025, 2026, even 2030, because he knows if he doesn't plant them now, they will not grow, and then by that point, Facebook could be dead potentially, and that's his big fear. I mean, here's the thing: if he changes the company as a whole, they could survive. It's very high risk. I mean, this is early phases. This is almost like Amazon, late 90s time periods where it's going through, we're in a bearish market right now. It's one of those things where it's going to happen, or if he doesn't invest that money now, it's going to be a massive problem later on. But I think he's making the right moves. And what I fear personally is, honestly, it's a really, contrarian opinion right here, is he may not be investing enough in this whole metaverse potential idea. Because here's the thing too, you have to realize, is the metaverse, if he would not own it, but if he builds a platform, builds some of the hardware behind it, I mean, they become the new Apple. They become the new Google. I mean, the platform itself, creator economy in there, they can help own that. Also, the hardware itself, I mean, they can help think about the iPhone, what it did for Apple. Totally changed the company from just one iPhone. If they can make a cheap consumer electronic that actually has AR, VR, whatever it might be, good haptic feedback, etc., change the metaverse as a whole too. This idea of like, the cartoon metaverse, you sit in, you strap in, everyone's like a cartoon avatar. That's going to change, I think. I think a couple years from now, we're going to get more realism, we're going to get more lifelike kind of animations, more lifelike conference rooms, more lifelike just in general right now. Because right now it feels a little bit like Minecraft or Roblox, where it's just not quite there yet. But people, I mean, I think the idea is definitely sound. The question is what's going to happen in the future. And the question is he investing enough now to make sure it pays off in the future? Because he knows that, hey, this decline is only the first of many. Things are going to happen. He's going to face other headwinds. There's going to be a new TikTok coming out. There's going to be new platforms coming out that he knows in the future are going to be massively disruptive to him. And like, you might be asking, hey, why doesn't he just buy these new platforms? Why doesn't he just buy TikTok or buy these other platforms out there? And like, what he's facing there is privacy issues or trust issues. Where all of a sudden he start consolidating all his platforms into one. Congress comes after him and says, hey, you're too big, you're too powerful, you have too many channels overall too. We're going to shut you down or break you up going forward. But hey, let me know your thoughts though. I think this metaverse idea, I think it's one of those things he has to do because he knows that the company has to change. Otherwise, it's going to get massively disrupted and he's not going to have any control over that too. So which is interesting here because the cash flow, he has a cash flow to do it right now. They're still profitable, they're still stable. The long-term growth right now, basically, it's almost like this period of doubt or this period of uncertainty. What's going to happen in the next 5 years with the whole metaverse concept? But hey, if he pays off, here's one stat you need to know. Morgan Stanley gave the metaverse total market value as $8 trillion. So if he captures that early share of that, they're going to be a totally different stock, totally different company. The stock could literally 5x easily, no problem, if the metaverse concept is realized and if he is right, even partially right. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. Subscribe.